Hello, welcome to another video with me, Lau, Profe Lau. I know that I make videos only in English now, but I'm gonna keep my name as Profe Lau because I like it. It's like my signature, it's like my brand. Also, in English, we have the word professor, but we don't say profe, but I think we should because I like it. So it comes from Spanish, but I like it, so Profe Lau. But you can just call me Lau. That's my name. People always ask me if that's my name. I'm like, well, it's my nickname. It's what people call me. I say, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Lau. So call me Lau. I don't share my private full government name, birth certificate name on the internet because that's just not how I roll. That's not my style. Sorry. So I'm really excited today. Hopefully the noise is not crap. I'm in Medellin, Colombia right now, but really that doesn't mean anything because no matter where I am, I swear, everywhere I go, it happened in Asia too, not just Latin America. Everywhere I go, there's always somebody using that. It sounds like a saw. It sounds like somebody's cutting wood with like an electric saw or something. I don't know if you can hear it. I really hope you're not going to be hearing the background noises when I edit the audio. But if you hear background noises, I can't help it, okay? Where am I going to film? I don't have a studio. I have to just film in my room. It's like just an apartment in the city, you know, there's noises. I'm sorry. It's just real life, okay? So it seems like everywhere I go, like doesn't matter where I go, there's always that sound. There's always that sound in the background. There's always somebody building something, cutting something, doing some kind of construction. I'm like, I swear, every single city, every single neighborhood, it doesn't matter. There is somebody using this machine. I don't know why. I don't know why there's always somebody building something, but there is. So sorry, you're just gonna have to deal with that. Okay, so I'm really excited because this is my first kind of official episode of like a podcast series that I'm gonna do. It's not like a super formal official podcast like all the other podcasts in the world. I'm not gonna put them out at a certain rate, like every Monday. No, it's just gonna be whenever I feel like making a podcast style video. And I'm trying this new thing because I realized multiple things. Number one, I realized that the most time consuming and energy consuming thing in making videos, in my process of making videos, is editing, but specifically the cutting. The cutting, every time I take a breath, every time I pause, every time I don't want to say that. I want to say something else. Every time like there's this gap, there's whatever. I'm always cutting. So there's a siren right now. Hold on, let's wait. Okay. So there's always, what was I saying? See, normally I would cut that part out, but I'm going to keep this stuff in because what happens is I'll have like 50 minutes of footage, right? And I cut it down to like 15 minutes when I get rid of all the stuff I don't want. And it's crazy. That takes me so long. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you guys just want English exposure. You just want to listen to English, right? That should be your goal. I know for me personally, when I want to improve my Spanish or my Portuguese, I just want to listen to somebody talk, ramble on naturally about whatever topic forever, right? I just want to listen to somebody, a native speaker, just go on and talk. And I want to hear the messy talk. I want to hear the ums and the thinking, the pauses, the breathing. I want to hear the natural speed, flow, rhythm. I want everything super realistic. I want no, never mind. I didn't mean to say that. I mean to say this. I want that. That really is the number one thing that you should be consuming. You should be listening to, right? You need to study how native speakers really talk. So it's great. And it's also great to just like put on a long video or podcast or whatever and, eat your dinner or clean your house or whatever and listen while you do stuff. I love that. It's like so efficient and it's really cool. And Yeah, so I want to make videos where you don't have to watch. You can watch if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just kind of put the phone, the laptop over there, and you can, put your Bluetooth earbuds on or headphones, and you can clean your house or whatever. You can watch my videos while you eat breakfast, whatever, whenever, however. But I just want to make long form videos because I swear I will sit here and I will talk for an hour. And then after I edit it, the video is 15 minutes and I upload that. And I do that so that it holds your attention, right? Because if I'm talking fast without a lot of pauses, a lot of breaks, and just exactly how I want to, very concise, it's going to hold your attention more, right? Because people don't have a lot of patience to sit there but you know what? I'm challenging you. I think you do. You just have to get in the mentality of like a podcast, like a long form content. So this isn't going to be like quick dopamine hit content, right? This is something to listen to while you do something else or while you have a lot of free time or whatever. I don't know. But it's long form content. And I know you guys watch TV shows and movies, so I know you can enjoy long-term content. So me personally, I think that's the most valuable thing when I'm learning a language, when I'm trying to improve a language. And I think that for you guys, that's what you should be consuming in English. So yeah, I can keep making these videos about like common mistakes and phrasal verbs you need to know. And yeah, maybe I will make videos like that. But I want to make more of these videos just talking about different topics. And also, I want to stop editing so much. I want to just talk, and however long the video is, maybe the video is 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, of me just talking about something. And maybe there's pauses and there's breathing and there's mistakes and whatever, like, no, actually, wait, no, I said that wrong. Let me say it again. That's okay. And I'm just going to keep it in, because this way, not only is it easier for me to get you content more frequently, more often, faster. I can put out content faster. I can easily do once a week, if not more. And it's also, you get more English exposure to like real English. So I am going to do this. I'm going to do this new style where I'm not cutting very much. I'm not editing. I'm just talking. And yeah. And if you think it's too slow, well, let me tell you something. This is how I naturally talk. Okay, this is me as like a very relaxed, chill, normal person. All right. If you watch like celebrity interviews where people ask them questions and they have to like on the spot think of an answer, when people are thinking as they're talking about what they're trying to say, what they're going to say, it is slower. Okay, it's not a script. It's not a movie script. It's not a video on social media that's cut to be like super jumpy and short artificially. Real life talking is generally slow. Occasionally we do say like something really fast, like brr, brr. Yes. But when we're having a conversation, when we're talking for a while, and we're having, especially like a monologue, and we're having to think about what to say as we're talking, it's gonna be slower. But even in a conversation, even in a dialogue, yeah, it's going to be slower if we're thinking about what to say as we're talking. This is normal. And honestly, I think people who talk super fast all the time, I know these people. In my experience, they tend to have high levels of anxiety. They tend to be particularly anxious people, and that's not me. Okay, I'm like really chill. I'm like, I don't really deal with anxiety that much, like I have seen in some people in my family and people that I've met, where, yeah, some people just, they're like, brr, because they're just like, their brain is going super fast because they're just like, oh, but this, or they have ADHD or whatever, or I don't know. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's the case for a lot of people, but I don't have ADHD. I don't deal with chronic anxiety. I deal more with depression. I'm more like, oh, I hate life. No, but yes, but not all the time, sometimes. But yeah, so I don't have that thing where I'm like I also don't consume caffeine. I don't drink coffee or tea or anything. So this is just natural, baby. This is just natural, like a chill, relaxed person just talking naturally, thinking about what I'm saying as I'm talking. Okay. But if it's too slow for you, you can always increase the speed on the YouTube video. You guys probably already know that. I see a lot of comments like, I listen to your videos in double speed, 1.5. Yeah, you can always do that. You can change the speed on the YouTube video. You can speed it up if you're impatient. And if you want, you can also turn on the captions. I'm not going to put subtitles because a lot of you guys don't like that. I want to give you the option to not see the subtitles. So you can just turn on the captions. They're probably not perfect. They probably don't, like transcript what I'm saying perfectly, but they're going to be pretty close. So yeah. So you have the captions. You can you can increase the speed if you want. So don't be complaining to me in the comments about, it's too slow, because I told you what I'm doing. I've told you what my intention is. Don't be complaining about, like, I don't want to listen to you go, because I told you, I warned you, that's what this kind of content is going to be. Okay. All right. So today, my first topic for my video of my podcast series, my first episode, is about my 4 years that I spent living in the Amazon of Ecuador. Ecuador, country in South America. I have viewers from all over the world, so I'm just, clarifying. Ecuador has a small part of the Amazon. If you look at South America, you see a huge, massive Amazon rainforest jungle. Most of it's in Brazil. You got a big part in Colombia, Venezuela. You got Bolivia, a huge part in Peru, and you got a small little part in Ecuador because Ecuador is small. But that's where I was. I was there for 4 years, and I'm going to start at the beginning, like before I even went there, and like why I went there, and I'm going to tell you like an overview of my whole story of why I was there, what I was doing, some experiences that I had, and you might have clicked on this video because I'm probably going to make a thumbnail that's like very attention grabbing, where I say that I was like attacked in the Amazon. And that is true. I was. That's not clickbait. I was attacked, but I'm going to tell that story later in the video. Okay. So you're going to have to watch to get to it. I'm not going to give you that right away. I'm going to lead up to it, but I will tell you the story of how I was attacked in the Amazon in Ecuador. So, yeah. Okay. So, let's go back to 2017. 2017, I was living in Florida. I was moving around. I was kind of lost and didn't know what I was doing with my life. I had actually dropped out of college. A lot of you probably don't know this. I dropped out of college because I was going through a big like spiritual awakening in myself, a big like personal development awakening. I was 19 years old. I always kind of didn't like school. I always kind of hated school, but school was always extremely easy for me. It wasn't an issue with that. It's just that I am very autodidactic and I'm a very passionate person, and I have a very rebellious, free spirit, and I just couldn't, I was getting depressed. I mean, like I went to the first day of school and I was like crying because I was just so unhappy with my life there and depressed, and I couldn't just continue and graduate and then you'll get a job and then things will be okay. No, like I was like, no, my mental health is bad now. I need to stop this now. I can always go back to school if I want to. I can always whatever, I'll figure it out. But I don't think that this is the kind of life I want. Anyways, I was dreaming of like living on a farm and like a totally different life. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I dropped out. I went to college in Florida. I lived in Florida for like 3 years. I grew up in Maine, but I went to Florida the first chance I could get. I graduated early from high school when I was 16. I was super young. And I went to college in Florida because I my whole childhood, I dreamed of living in a tropical place. I'm a tropical girl. I love the warm weather, the tropics. Oh, I love it so much. And so I was in Florida. I dropped out of school. I was kind of like in between jobs and looking for work and trying to survive, trying to make it in Florida. I spent some time living in Miami. Briefly, I was in Orlando. I spent some time in like Tampa, St. Petersburg area. All I had was a car and a bank account with not a lot of money in it. And my car was old and I bought it myself. And yeah, I felt like I couldn't really, I didn't really have any support from my family because my mom died when I was 14, and I didn't really have that kind of relationship with my dad, and everybody else in my family didn't really want to help me financially or anything, or like I didn't really even want to ask. Like I felt like kind of like a burden, or I just didn't have a good relationship with some people, and I didn't want to go back to Maine. To me, that was like the ultimate failure. So I stayed in Florida, and I was just kind of lost and just kind of tired of it all. And I was also kind of going through this spiritual awakening. This is the time, I was 19, as I said. This is the time that I went vegan. I've been vegan now for over 8 years. I went vegan. I was discovering this whole world of tropical fruits. This is when my passion for tropical fruit really began, because Florida is a fruit paradise. Not at the grocery store. Okay, if you're just a normal person going to the grocery store in Florida, you're not going to realize that Florida is a tropical fruit paradise. If you know, you know. Florida has a lot of fruit collectors. So like all the gringos that are like, not all of them, but a lot of them that are like fruit nerds, like fruit collectors, like they're like growing like 50 types of mangoes, like stuff you've never even heard about or seen at the grocery store or even in Latin America. They live in Florida. Like Florida collects a lot of exotic, rare tropical fruit, stuff that you can't, like I said, you can't even find in Latin America. Like just so many varieties, but on small private farms, like just these fruit collectors, fruit nerds, they have their own private properties and they grow stuff. And there are certain events. There's like a mango festival, and there's little markets, and here and there you can find stuff. I was in Miami at the time, and if you drive in certain parts of Miami, like West Miami, you can find some like Latin markets where you can find more like some really good variety of tropical fruits. A lot of it probably is shipped in from like the islands and stuff, or from Central America. I mean, eating like mamey sapote was like this big, like football, and like perfect, the best quality I've ever had in my life. Just avocados, like the tropical ones that were like this long, like I'm not like the longest I've seen in my entire life. Types of bananas that I have not seen anywhere else. I have not found them. I haven't found them anywhere else, even in Latin America, even in Asia. I went to tropical Asia, just like so much stuff. So in Miami, you can drive south Miami. You can go to a town called Homestead, and there's a lot of fruit sellers and growers there. There's a lot of Vietnamese farms where they grow some exotic Asian fruits. I'll never forget like driving in Homestead, like driving just down the main road, and I look over and I see on the side of the road is like a Latina woman selling fruits. So I stop the car, I go look. She doesn't speak a word of English. I mean, like very, and at the time I knew a little Spanish. I knew some Spanish, but I wasn't confident in speaking Spanish. So I didn't really speak Spanish yet. I wasn't really like trying to be fluent. So I just used, minimal communication, and she was selling jackfruits and like exotic bananas, stuff, amazing stuff. Just Florida is like a dream. It was a dream for me as somebody who grew up in Maine and never had a fresh mango, never had a papaya, barely even knew what avocado was. Didn't know any other kinds of bananas besides the one most commercialized one, which is called the Cavendish. I didn't know anything about fruits, tropical fruits. And I discovered this whole world of tropical fruits. And I was at a time of my life when I was trying to eat healthier, and I was trying to eat more fruit. And I was trying to eat more raw food, more living food. And so I just dove headfirst into this world of discovering all these tropical fruits, and I was eating them and falling in love with them. And like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my life. This is changing my life. This is incredible. My passion was developing and flourishing. And so, I was falling in love with tropical fruits, and I was discovering bananas that I actually liked, because the Cavendish banana, the commercialized banana that everybody knows, the number one most famous banana, I don't really love that banana. I don't really like it that much. I'll eat it in a pinch, I'll eat it if that's all that's available, but I'm not really a big fan of that banana. It kind of sucks, I think, compared to others that I've had, So I was eating bananas like other kinds of bananas, like, oh my God, this is so good. Like bananas that taste like apples, bananas that taste like pineapples, bananas that no, I could eat this all day long. Like I would never get sick of this banana. Like I remember just like eating like big rambutans, jackfruit, just like papaya. I mean, so many things, and dragon fruits. And I just remember taking bites of this fruit and just being like, I cannot believe I've been deprived of this my whole life. I feel like I went through child abuse because I couldn't eat this stuff. Like this is a crime. Like why is it that most people only know about one banana when there's, or why is it that, or even in Latin America people know about like a few, but there's like hundreds. And I was doing research, and there's hundreds of bananas, there's hundreds of varieties of mangoes, but the industries will only grow like a few different kinds. And so people don't really know that there's so many more out there in existence. And so I was just falling in love. I was discovering this whole world. Trust me, all of this is super relevant to my story of living in the Amazon. Okay. And I was eating these fruits, and I remember just because I was in Miami, and I would go to the beach. I'd be in the warmth, in the sun. I'd go swim in the ocean. I would eat these amazing fruits. And I remember just feeling happier than I ever did in my life, even though my life was kind of a mess because of my job situation, my financial situation, my like not knowing what I'm going to do with my life, feeling kind of lonely and lost, not really knowing what to do. I was still just so happy at this time. I remember being so happy, like just laughing for no reason, just smiling for no reason, because I was fueling my body with these incredible fruits that were so delicious, and they made me feel so good. It wasn't that they were so delicious, but eating so much fruit, it made me feel so good in my body. Like I felt alive. I felt like I was healthier than I had ever been in my entire life. It felt like this is the way that humans are supposed to live. This is the way that we are meant to be living. We're meant to be in the warmth and the sunshine, and go for a swim in the ocean, the water, and eat these delicious tropical fruits, jackfruits and mangoes. And it just felt like this is the way we should live, and this is how I want to live my life. And I was, for a while, since I dropped out of college, I was already wanting to like work in a garden or on a farm. Like I was already wanting to be more in nature and get my hands in the dirt and grow food and learn how to grow food. And I felt this like strong calling to do this. So I was on the internet, and I was just kind of looking around and watching YouTube videos and looking up things and trying to like find more people who were like-minded, like-minded people who were vegan, people who were really into tropical fruits, people who wanted to get back to get back to nature, like live in nature, more in nature, live on a farm, grow fruits, stuff like this. Live more in harmony with nature and health and community and stuff like that. So I found these YouTube videos of a guy who was living in an intentional community. We call it an intentional community. It's like when people kind of get together and buy land and they form a community intentionally. And they all kind of live there and they maybe grow food and have communal activities and stuff like that. So I found a place. So through this guy I found on YouTube, he was living at a place like that in Ecuador, in the Amazon. And it was mostly gringos. It was, well, not just like people from the US, but like also Europeans, but it was mostly like, Europeans or gringos or, it's mostly like white, English speaking people, who were creating this community. But it was out in a small town in the Amazon in Ecuador. And it was a vegan community. And they were growing tropical fruits. They were focusing on growing exotic fruits. So they were collecting as many species as they could of tropical fruits, like delicious tropical fruits, stuff from Latin America. People were bringing stuff from Asia, not like problematic, invasive stuff, but like domesticated tropical fruits that are, not dangerous to the local habitat. Okay, so... don't get confused. But yeah, bringing stuff from Florida. Just people were kind of collecting stuff there. People were flying there. Ecuador was very lax at the time. I don't know if it still is, but you could basically go to Ecuador with a suitcase full of like plants, like little fruit trees and banana kids, we call them, or banana plants, little baby bananas. Or like seeds or whatever. Like you could just go with a suitcase full of that in the Ecuadorian airport, and they didn't care. They were like, have a nice day. So so nowadays they have a pretty big collection of exotic fruits and stuff there. So a lot of stuff that Ecuadorians don't even know about, or even a lot of Latin Americans don't know about. A lot of South Americans don't know about. So stuff from, like I said, stuff from Asia, stuff from Florida that's super exotic. So anyways, I found this place and I was like, great, I want to go there and volunteer. I want to stay there and learn everything I can. And I want to do it. So I planned to do it and I did it. I made the plan. I bought my ticket. I did everything. And then some months later, I went. I went to Ecuador in November of 2017, and I turned 20 in September. So 2 months before I went to Ecuador, I turned 20. And I went. And so I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to Ecuador. I need to become fluent in Spanish now. Like I already know some Spanish, but I need to be fluent. I want to be fluent. Now is the time. So I just started studying every single day, internet, me, autodidactic. I've talked about it in a lot of videos, just as much as I could, just listening, repeating. So I was just in super hyper Spanish, gotta learn Spanish mode. I was also learning Brazilian Portuguese at the time. At the same time, I was starting Portuguese from zero, because I was like, I'm going to South America. I'm going to Ecuador. Maybe I'll go to Brazil after. So I was doing Spanish and Portuguese at the time. That was crazy for my brain. I don't recommend it, but yeah, I did that for like a year, and then I ended up just like, okay, I'm just going to focus on Spanish only because I'm getting a little confused here. So, and then I've been focused on Spanish primarily for the last like 7 to 8 years. So, so nowadays I consider myself fluent. I'm very comfortable in Spanish. My Portuguese is still stuck at like a like a intermediate level. But lately I've been trying to work on that because I am planning on going to Brazil for the first time soon. So yeah. But anyways, at the time, so I was in hyper study mode. Like, I gotta improve my language skills. And I had a lot of confidence based on nothing because I'm kind of a confident person in general, even if I don't actually have the skills to back it up. So I remember going to Ecuador being like nervous. It was my first time going somewhere like outside the United States, and I was especially by myself. I went with a friend, but she only stayed for like 2 months and she went back to the US. So I'm not really going to talk about that. She didn't know any Spanish, so that wasn't helpful. I was a bit nervous about my Spanish, but I was also kind of confident, like thinking I know more than I really do. When I went, and then you just get hit with the harsh reality of people being like at the airport, in the bus station, and wherever, just being like, blah, 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 and like older people, and then like Ecuador's specific dialect and using usted instead of tú. I was not prepared for that. Like, so many things, so many words I didn't know, so many things I didn't know. They would talk to me fast. They'd be like, what? Older people would talk to me like, what? So that was my biggest problem, is I could express a lot of things, but I did not understand a lot when people would talk to me, like fast or, not clearly, when I first went. So I basically, I went to this community, and it's so hard to figure out what to tell you guys because there's so many details. Like, I could tell you about the fact that we missed a plane. I almost lost the bags that had the plants in it. Yes, we brought some bags with fruit trees from Florida. The whole thing, I flew into Guayaquil, and then we took a bus to Cuenca, and then we took a bus to Gualakisa. Gualakisa is the town. I don't know if I should be saying this, but whatever. Gualakisa is the town in Ecuador where the community was. I'm not going to give the names of the communities because I don't know. I kind of want to protect but I don't want to make that so public. But anyways, nowadays there's actually 3 communities in this area. I went to the community there in Gualakisa. And why does that sound so weird? I used to say this all the time. Gualakisa. I don't know why it sounds weird to me right now. Like, am I saying it correctly? Well, because in gringo English, we always say Gualakisa, but it's not Guala, it's Gualakisa. Yeah, anyway, little town in the southeast part of Ecuador in the Amazon. It's not like so far into the Amazon. So it's like the foothills of the Andes. So it's still a little bit higher elevation. It's like maybe 700 to 1,000 meters, depending on where you are. Maybe more than that. I don't know, elevation. It wasn't the lowest, because later on in my story, I go to a place that's like 300 meters. That really felt like the true Amazon, because that was like, there was no mountains. It was like more flat, and it was like hotter and like sunnier. Gualakisa is very cloudy. It feels like a cloud forest. And there's more, I swear there's more mosquitoes, not mosquitoes, gnats, like the little tiny things you can't see. In English, we call them no-see-ums because you can't see them. No-see-ums. Those things, I swear there is a big problem in Gualakisa with those things. Those things go crazy in Gualakisa. There's like so many because of the weather. It's like not as sunny there. So Gualakisa is not like the best place to experience the Amazon, but that was my first experience in the Amazon. Technically is the Amazon. But it's not like when you go deeper into the Amazon and you go lower, it gets even more like a jungle, like the sounds of the birds, the animals, like everything becomes even more tropical. So, but this is my first experience at the Amazon. It's like the very edge of the Amazon, like the very beginning of the Amazon. So yeah, so I got to Gualakisa, and I spent pretty much like the first year there, just like in the little cabin in the room. Like we had Wi-Fi, we had internet, just on my little tablet or my phone, just watching content in Spanish, imitating. And then I actually lived in a tent, like I slept in a tent. So we had like a communal house. It was like a wooden house, but I didn't want to sleep in the house. I wanted a little bit more privacy. I wanted to be able to like practice my Spanish out loud and like talk out loud. I wanted to be able to sing and stuff. So I like to do that. So I slept in a tent. I slept in a tent for over a year. I put my tent on a pineapple field. It was like a hill, and I found like a little flat area to put my tent on the pineapple field hill. And my view was a river, and that was cool. It was beautiful. The Amazon is beautiful. And yeah, so I slept in a tent for over a year, super rustic. I was 20. I was adventurous. I would never do that now. Nowadays, I'm going to be 28 this month. I like my comforts. I don't want to live in a very rustic way anymore. But at this time of my life, I was very open to living very rustic. Like I was okay with that. It was like, whatever. It's fine. It was fine. Yeah, it was cool. A lot of tarantulas. Yeah, tarantulas like the size of your face, like just huge tarantulas. During my time in the Amazon, because you just kind of have to accept it. And I was at a point in my life where I was just kind of accepting all the insects and stuff. I didn't want to touch them, right? I've never been one to want to touch insects, but I kind of just accepted them and appreciated them. And I even thought that they were kind of cute, like the tarantulas and stuff. They're kind of cute. I wouldn't want to touch one, but yeah, I kind of developed this appreciation for the creatures there. I rarely saw a snake. People always ask me about snakes. I saw a snake like 3 times in my 4 years in the Amazon. So you really don't see a lot of snakes, because you got to understand that a lot of creatures don't want to be around humans. They're scared of humans for good reason. And so they book it. They leave. They get out of there as fast as they can as soon as they sense that there's a human around. Tarantulas are a little bit more ballsy. They don't they'll come right on your, like if you're sleeping on a mattress and if you're in the house and you have a mosquito net, like a bug net around your bed, they love to hang on things. So the tarantula will crawl up on the net, and you'll like wake up in the morning and there's just like a giant tarantula on your bug net. So it can't get in, so it can't touch you. Not that it wants to. It's not trying to get to you. It just, they like to hang on things. So you'll see them on the walls. So if you have a house and you have any holes or any place for them to get in, they will get in. And they like to come in, especially when it's raining or going to rain. They will come in and like hang out on the wall or on the net. Yeah, they like to hang out, literally. Literally, they like to hang out. And they're not trying to get you. They just like to hang out. You have to check your shoes though, because they will hide in shoes. So you have to always take your shoes or your boots. Most of the time I was in the Amazon, I wore these boots, these big rubber boots. Because it was very wet, especially in Gualakisa, because it rains a lot. It's a rainforest. So you have to flip your boots upside down and shake them, bang them, so that anything will come out. Yeah. I knew somebody that put their foot into a shoe without checking, and a tarantula bit them. And yeah, they said it was painful. It hurt all day. But it's not poisonous for adults. Like, it can't kill you. I think it can kill you if you're like a baby, but not, or a small child or something. But an adult, it can't kill you. Snakes, certain venomous snakes can kill you. Not all snakes are venomous though. But you got to understand, I wasn't in the middle of nowhere, right? There was a town. We were always like, my whole time I was in the Amazon, I was always like Sorry, there's a plane. I was always like 20 minutes from the nearest town, 20, 30 minutes max from the nearest town or small city that had hospitals, schools, stores, like anything. So if you got bit by a snake, you just go to the hospital, which never happened to me, and you can get the anti-venom. I don't even know how to say it, but yeah, you can get the medicine so you don't die from a snake bite. Yeah, but the tarantulas, you don't have to get the anti-venom for that. But the most insect attacks that I got the whole time was from ants. The Amazon is full of all different kinds of ants, big ants that when they bite you, it really hurts, like bad. And especially the one ant, which thankfully never bit me, which is we call it the bullet ant. I think they called it the conga there. I don't know, but you see it. I used to see it all the time on trees and stuff, crawling. They say it feels like a gunshot, like a bullet. Feels like you got shot. It's like, and it hurts for days. So thankfully, I never had that bite me, that ant. But I had some other ones bite me, and yeah, sometimes it will hurt for hours. Like, the ants are crazy in the Amazon. And wasps also. There's a lot of wasps, wasp nests. So sometimes you got your machete and you're cutting, you're cutting plants on the farm, you're cutting the weeds or whatever. And I talked about this in another video, but weed doesn't mean in the context of the farm, the garden, weed is not marijuana. Weed is like all the plants that grow naturally that you don't want in your garden or your farm, that you have to cut or get rid of. So we call those the weeds. So when you're cutting weeds with a machete or a weed whacker, the weed whacker, sometimes you cut a plant that has a wasp nest and you didn't see it, and they all come out and attack you. Yes, this happened to me multiple times. And you drop your machete, your weed whacker, and you scream and you run. But then if you're crazy like me, they'll settle down and you come back and you're like, well, I gotta cut this plant. So I used to swing, cut it, agitate them. They'd all come out, and I'd run before they could get me. And then they'd calm down, they'd go back, and then I'd come back and I'd cut it again. And because sometimes it takes many cuts. So I would just do that. I would cut it and run. But yeah, I got a lot of wasp nests, wasp bites. No, stings, sorry, not bites. I got a lot of wasp stings. Yeah, wasp stings and ant bites. That was really the most dangerous thing in the Amazon. Like, not even anything else. People always ask about big animals. There's not a lot of big animals in the Amazon. You never see a jaguar. Like, you rarely see a jaguar if you're in places where there's a lot of people living. They're just not going to come around. So never saw a jaguar. Also, a lot of cute, small, herbivorous animals that are totally harmless because they're cute, herbivorous animals. You will see some of them sometimes, but not as much as we really should be seeing them because they're being over-hunted by indigenous people, by native people. There is the problem with over-hunting, and also land destruction. So they have less habitat, but they are being over-hunted as well. So not just native people. I had some mixed mestizo neighbors that also hunted them. So people who live there and hunt, yeah, they're being over-hunted. So unfortunately, you don't see many of them, but you see some. I used to see a lot of the watusa. They call it the watusa. It's like a big rodent, but it's so cute. They're so cute. Anyways, the hardest thing about being vegan out in this area wasn't the fact that, oh, I don't have food to eat. No, I had tons of food to eat. There's plenty of plant foods to eat out there, at the stores and stuff people grew on their farms. And there's plenty of food. The problem was that there was so much violence, so much animal violence, not just, I mean, also violence toward humans, but just a lot of hunting. People had farm animals, a lot of killing of farm animals. A lot of times people in the countryside out there, they even treat their dogs badly, even though they don't kill the dogs necessarily, but they still treat them badly. Maybe they don't give them enough food. Maybe they hit them. You know how it is sometimes, people out in the countryside and people who are kind of more old-fashioned, more living like in the past, you know, they might even hit their kids, and they're just kind of violent people, you know, hit their partners, and yeah, a lot of violence. Unfortunately, I witnessed a lot of violence. I felt a lot of violent energy out there. It's unfortunate because the Amazon is so beautiful. And this can be absolutely 100% the case in the countryside of the United States as well. Okay, I'm not picking on Ecuador or Latin America or whatever. This happens in United States. People hunt, people kill farm animals, people abuse dogs, people abuse their kids. Like, it could be anywhere. I'm just saying that, unfortunately, there's still a lot of people like this on the planet who are just very violent. And yeah, I think that's the hardest thing about being somebody like me who's very nonviolent generally, and vegan, and just like trying to like, okay, let's respect everybody. Let's respect everyone, all the sentient beings, everybody who has the capacity to suffer, anyone that has a brain and a nervous system, you know, all animals. But yeah, that's just the reality out there. The Amazon is beautiful, but there definitely are some problems with violence. There's way more problems than this. There's problems with the mines, the mining. People would always talk about the Chinese mines when I was there, and the mining companies polluting rivers and invading people's lands, and underpaying workers, and just there's a lot of problems. Just like in any place, right? Every place has its problems. But the Amazon is beautiful, and I had some great experiences with the nature and also with the people. Some of my neighbors were very nice to me, and I have great memories of going to visit my neighbors, and they would talk to me, and they were very interested in me, and they would give me a bag of papayas and bananas from their farm to take home. And so I had a lot of great experiences. But to be totally honest, I did have some negative experiences, and I will get into that, my story of how I was attacked. I'm laughing, but it wasn't funny at the time. It's funny now that I'm talking about it, and I'm, a lot of time has gone by, but it traumatized me. So going back to when I got to the community in Gualakisa, so there weren't a lot of people there. There was a handful of people. They have volunteers, so a lot of people go and stay for a time, and they leave. They come and go. There's a small amount of people that were living there kind of permanently. And my intention was just to stay. If I like it, I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going to leave, because I didn't have anything else to do with my life. I didn't know what else I was going to do. And I liked it there. As soon as I went there, I fell in love with the place. The nature, the community. I never lived in a place with such like-minded people. I felt like I had friends who kind of saw things the way that I did. And I loved getting to go to town and practice a little bit of my Spanish, but I didn't do it a lot. I spent most of my time at the gringo community talking in English, so I mostly just had to study Spanish. That's why I say I really just learned Spanish with me and the internet, primarily, because that's how I learned how to have a conversation. That's how I learned a lot of stuff. And then I was able to go to town and talk to Ecuadorians and understand more of what they were saying to me and stuff like that, and be able to actually talk to them. Because if I hadn't studied by myself so much, and practiced speaking so much, I would have gone to town and been like, hola, like I wouldn't have really been able to communicate that easily. So yeah. So even though Ecuador had a big influence on my Spanish in the first years, it wasn't like Ecuador taught me Spanish, It was like, trust me, those ladies selling fruits in town were not gonna sit there with me and like, explain things to me and like talk slower and be like, okay, this is this, and so yeah, I had to, you have to do a lot of the work yourself. You have to study, you have to learn stuff so that you can hold your own. You can have a conversation. I would talk a lot with the taxi drivers. They were very, very like, how old are you? Are you married? Are you going to have kids? What do you think of Ecuador? Always the same questions. So it was like always the same conversation. So it was just kind of repeating the same stuff. But yeah, so I had mostly interactions like that, very simple interactions. But most of the time I was talking in English in the community with other gringos and stuff. So yeah, so it wasn't like I had this super Spanish immersive experience. I had to do most of the work myself of learning the language. But yeah, so I lived at this community. I learned a lot. I was researching about how to grow tropical fruits and stuff like that on the internet. And I was also learning in real life through experience, through talking to people there and actually doing it. And yeah, I learned a lot. So basically in my time there, I learned a lot about how to grow these tropical fruits. Not just that, how to grow like anything in that climate, how to grow stuff there. The Amazon is awesome for growing tropical things because you never have to water anything. It rains so much. It rains all the time. So you don't need irrigation. So the Amazon is an ideal place for growing tropical fruits and stuff. So it's incredible. It's the same climate as like the tropical jungle climate in Southeast Asia, like in Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines. So the same stuff you can grow over there, you can grow in the Amazon here. You can grow in a lot of Latin America. Florida is actually subtropical. It's kind of on the border. So you can grow some stuff. You can grow jackfruit, you can grow bananas, but you can't grow certain super tropical, we call it ultra tropical stuff that you can grow in Asia, like the famous durian and stuff that Latin America doesn't even know about yet. That's very big in Asia. But we had some of that stuff on the farm in Gualakisa. So there are some gringos who have farms in Latin America where they have certain very exotic Asian fruits that most people in Latin America don't know about yet. But yeah, hopefully in the future it becomes more known and they spread the plants around, the seeds, the genetics, because yeah, Latin America has the potential to be as successful with tropical fruit production and variety as Southeast Asia. And if it became that way, it would get even more like fruit tourism, because Asia gets a lot of fruit tourism. Like a lot of people go there mostly because of the fruits, like some, fruit nerd people like me. Like that was one of the big reasons I went to Southeast Asia, was because of the fruits. So yeah, my dream is like that one day Latin America can have those fruits as well. Yeah. So anyways, so I learned a lot about that. I learned so much about permaculture, like organic growing of food growing, organic farming, basically not destroying the soil. So, in the countryside, I would see all the time the neighbors, they fumigate, they use chemicals, they kill the soil in order to kill all the weeds. But it kind of kills their crops too. Like it negatively impacts the health of the plants that they are intentionally growing. And it kind of kills the soil so that it's harder to grow things in the future. So I was learning a lot about permaculture, which is basically not destroying the soil. So keeping the soil healthy, full of microorganisms, and instead just cutting the top layer, just taking with a machete or a weed whacker, just cutting the weeds to maintain the health of the soil, but to make it, because fruits are very domesticated, so they're not compared to the Amazon jungle, which is like a beast. It's a ferocious, wild beast, which if you let it, it will grow in 2 days and take over your whole, in a month, it'll take over your house. Like, I'm exaggerating, but it's crazy. If you just let it, the jungle is very powerful. These plants, these wild plants that have been competing for so long, they are ruthless. They are ferocious. So the little weak domesticated fruit trees are like powerless against the Amazon jungle. So you have to protect them by cutting back the jungle, right? So you have to cut the plants around them. And it's not killing the soil. It's not killing the jungle. Trust me, you couldn't if you tried. It grows back like a weed with enough time. But it's kind of like a haircut, like a trim. So you give the farm a haircut, trim back all the weeds so that your fruit trees and stuff can flourish and they don't have competition. They need all the competition to be taken away so they can have a chance. So what was I saying? I see this is the kind of moment I would cut out, but I'm not cutting it out, so I just have to think of it. What was I saying? I can't remember. But yeah, basically I was just learning about how to grow fruit trees in a way that doesn't destroy the soil, and it just kind of you just kind of get rid of the competition without destroying the soil. Because the neighbors, they would just come in there with chemicals. So we were basically doing it without chemicals. So without toxic chemicals. Everything is chemicals, but toxic chemicals. So I learned a lot about these fruits and fruit trees. I learned that bananas grow like a weed super easily, like probably the easiest thing to grow. I mean, they literally, you plant them and they just multiply like crazy. Papayas can be difficult. Papayas, you can plant a whole field of papayas and a lot of them turn out to be males, so they don't even produce fruit, or a lot of them they get diseased, they get eaten, they don't even make it to the fruiting point, or they fruit and the fruit is not even sweet. It's a whole headache. But papayas and bananas are not trees, technically. They're, so that's why they grow and produce a lot faster. They grow and produce like all year long and regularly and quickly, like in a year. Whereas fruit trees can take years. I'm probably not going to get too much into this because you might not care or it might be too technical. But yeah, different fruit. The point is, I learned a lot about fruit trees. I learned a lot about how long fruit trees take to grow, grafted fruit trees, different things that they need, ideal spots to grow them. I learned a lot about different things related to growing fruits and growing stuff in the tropical climate, and permaculture and stuff like that. So yeah. And living in the community was good. I started to get into a relationship with one of the guys there, and things were okay for a time. But then basically we just started to have social problems in the community. And it happens a lot, right? If you're going to try to live together in an intentional community, I think this is kind of the downfall of a lot of these kind of communities is social problems, right? It's hard. It's hard to live with a bunch of random people. These are not people that we became friends with first and then decided to make a community. These are people that we met at the community because we had some things in common. But, it's hard. It's hard to live with people, especially a group of people. You might not really like everybody in the group, or you might have very different clashing personalities. So there's a lot of things that can happen. There's a lot of potential drama and social problems. And, well, I'm not going to get into details. There were a lot of factors and a lot of things that were going on. I was struggling with some things, with some issues that I was having, personal issues at the time. Oh, by the way, this is when I started teaching online as an English teacher. I started working on italki.com because I needed a way to make money to stay there. So I started teaching English on that website. I'm so grateful to italki because I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my italki job back then. So we started to have social problems with the community. Me and my boyfriend at the time, we decided to think about leaving or to look for land elsewhere. So we went on a trip. We went looking for land. We were not really successful. He decided to go back to the community. I decided to keep looking. So I went up to the northern part of the Amazon in Ecuador. I went to a place called Koka. They call it Koka. The actual name is, what is it called? It's called Francisco de Orellana, I think, is the official name of the city, but most people just call it Koka. So I went to Koka, and this is at 300 meters elevation. So this felt like we are in the Amazon basin. This felt like it's a bit farther into the Amazon. It's more flat, lower. It was sunnier, not so cloudy, not as many gnats. It was better weather, better environment. And it was super tropical. That was the first time I actually saw a lot of monkeys and birds I had never heard before. And it was just okay, now I'm in the ultra tropical Amazon. And I loved it right away. They actually grow a lot of coconuts in Koka. In the city, there's so many coconuts. You can get very cheap coconuts there. So I found a small piece of land. It was 3 hectares. Found this piece of land for very cheap price. And I told my boyfriend at the time, my ex-boyfriend, about it, and we decided to get it. We were able to afford it. It was extremely cheap, crazy cheap. I think it was $6,500 for 3 hectares. Dollars, $6,500. It's nothing. Latin America is cheaper than the US, but in general, but this was next level. This was ridiculously cheap. You usually cannot find land that cheap in most places. So super cheap. It was the ideal climate. And we decided to start our own farm. That was our idea. We're going to start our own farm, our own project, maybe our own community or something. I don't know. It wasn't a big piece of land because the community in Gualakisa, they had a huge piece of land. It was much bigger than 3 hectares. So it was good for a community. 3 hectares, it's okay. It's not really that big. It's good for a small amount of people. All right, my camera overheated and I got cut off. So I had to shut it off for 20 minutes and hopefully it works now. Yeah, my camera always overheats after I've been filming for a while. So anyways, so we bought the land and we just started basically, there was no house on the land. There was no electricity or anything. So, we were living in Koka. We were living in the city. We rented a room in the city and we would every day or almost every day, I'd take a bus out, to the land, 20 minutes, 30 minutes bus ride, 30 minutes really with all the stops and everything. And, yeah, I would just work on the land. Yeah, I think I did more work than my ex. I was really, really motivated. I was like, I'm gonna make this farm. It's my dream. I'm gonna grow a fruit forest. I'm gonna grow a food forest. Yeah, I was extremely motivated. I'd go out there almost every day. I love to chop with a machete. Yeah, I would cut trees with a machete. Not big trees, obviously. Like, it's not that big if you can cut it with a machete. Just cutting trees with a knife. Yeah. Cutting like just a lot of stuff, thorns and vines, and yeah. Trying to make some space to grow fruit trees and stuff. Yeah, we decided to keep like maybe like 2 hectares, just like natural forest, and just use like 1 hectare for like growing fruit trees and putting houses and stuff like that, or whatever. But yeah, we wanted to keep a lot of the land. Like, it's not like it was primary forest. It had been cut down before in the past and it grew back, but it was secondary forest, but it was still like nice and jungly and stuff. We wanted to keep that part as much as possible. So, yeah, so it was just a small amount of land that I was chopping on, but yeah. So yeah, I'd go out there almost every day, and then I'd come back to the city, do a few hours of work, and then come back. And we lived in the city, and we both taught English classes online, and yeah, that was our life until the pandemic hit. And then basically, it's complicated. I don't really want to get into the details of what specifically happened, but basically we had to choose between living in the city or living on the farm, even though we didn't really have a place to live on the farm. So the pandemic hit, it was chaos. We went to go live on the farm in like tents. Our neighbors saw us and were like, you guys are living in tents. You can come stay in this little cabin that we have. Yeah, they were really helpful to us. They let us stay there. They gave us food, and yeah, we ended up later having some issues with them, but I will always be grateful to them for helping us during that time. That was really, for whatever reason, they decided to do that. They helped us a lot during that time. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, it was really nice to not have to sleep in a tent, and it was like storming, and trees can fall on you, and yeah, it was like, yeah, we were like cooking over a fire. We didn't even have a stove. It was crazy. It was crazy. But so we stayed at our neighbors for a few months, and they didn't have internet. So we stopped working. I didn't have internet access for 3 months. And as somebody who's part of Generation Z, as somebody who grew up with the internet like that from the time I was like 10, 11 years old, that was difficult. That was really hard. Honestly, I felt like I was going crazy from 3 months without internet, and also being kind of trapped, kind of stranded in like the countryside in Ecuador, and not even being able to go to the city, not being able to travel, not being able to see what's going on in the world. They had a TV with like 1 channel, not being able to contact anybody. I was like worried that I was like going to lose my job, because I basically said I was going on vacation, but 3 months goes by, and eventually they will deactivate your profile if you don't come back. So yeah, it was a crazy time. I felt like I was kind of going crazy, but we made it. We didn't lose our jobs. Eventually we got Wi-Fi out there, and we were able to work. And then eventually we just went back, as things calmed down, we went back to living in the city and kind of commuting back and forth to the farm. We got some little houses built, little cabins, like very tiny cabins. We didn't have a lot of money. Honestly, I was poor. Like I was pretty much making the amount of money that Ecuadorians make on minimum wage, like $500 a month, $500. Yeah. So I was basically living on like Ecuadorian minimum wage. And yeah, so I was poor. I didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't have a lot of expenses, because when you're single and you don't have to pay rent, or your rent is very cheap, and your food is very cheap. Eating potatoes and rice and beans and stuff. I was able to save enough up, like a couple $1,000 to have like to pay my neighbor to build like a little cabin for me on my land. And so we got little cabins, and but we never had electricity on the land. We never had internet. So we still would live in the city, and we'd go out there, we'd stay out there, and we were kind of living between Koka and the farm, going back and forth and whatnot. Eventually, my ex and I, we started to have problems, and I think we were starting to fight a lot. And I don't know, I was getting older, I was maturing, I was starting to realize that we are not a match, we are not really actually compatible, and I don't want to be with him anymore. And we ended up separating, but we were still like friends. We were still kind of like, okay, what do we do with this farm project? We still kind of didn't want to abandon the project, because even during our relationship, we were very we were friends. We were kind of like a team. So we thought like, oh, we can still make it work. We can still do this farm project, even though we're not in a relationship. And I don't know what we were thinking, but I just didn't want to let go of this project. It was so hard. I was so attached to it. And so eventually we separated, but we were still kind of like both living in Koka, and both, sometimes he would leave and go to Quito, and I would be alone. Sometimes he would come back, and different things happened. But I want to get to and also, before I get into the story of how I was attacked, that you all have been waiting for, maybe, I just want to say that I didn't go into a lot of detail about all of my experiences, but as I said before, I had positive and negative experiences. I had a lot of beautiful experiences. I've talked about it in a video I made about why I prefer living in Latin America, about how the kids in the countryside were so cute in Gualakisa. They would always walk by me and be like, "Buenas tardes." I met a lot of nice people, a lot of neighbors, workers, because at the community they would hire Ecuadorians to work on the farm. Some of those guys were really cool. They always helped me with a lot of things. They taught me how to plant yucca and how to pick some fruits and stuff. And I have a lot of good experience, a lot of great experiences in the Amazon and with the people out there as well. So I don't want you to think that it was I'm talking bad about the people, or it's all negative or whatever. It's like in any place, you can go to any place in the world. I can talk about my home state in the United States. I can talk about negatives and positives about the life there, the people there. It's just, I just think it's funny because people always ask me, it's like my joke. People always ask me about how was it living in the Amazon. And I always jokingly say, but there's truth in it. But I always say oh, the Amazon is beautiful, but like everything in the world, the people ruin it. And there's truth in that, It's like nature is beautiful, people kind of ruin it. And when you repeatedly wake up in the morning to dead sloths, you know what a sloth is? It's like that animal that moves extremely slow. It's like the animal that is super herbivorous and slow moving and hangs in the trees, but comes down to go to the bathroom, I think. I would wake up in the morning sometimes and see dead sloths. Why? Because the sloths would come down to do their business, and the dogs, which are not native to that habitat, but the dogs owned by the people, would kill them, and they wouldn't even eat them. They would just kill them. And so, you see stuff like that, and it's those sloths were killed not because somebody was starving and needed to eat, no, but because people bring their dogs, their domesticated dogs, the dogs kill the sloths. It's stuff like that makes me upset. So, so I just that's what I mean when I say the Amazon is beautiful, people ruin it. Okay, and there's native people living in the Amazon, and there's also like mestizo, like mixed people, like pure native people living in the Amazon. There's both. Okay, there's both. The Amazon has, for people who think the Amazon is just the middle of nowhere, it's just uncontacted tribes. Yes, there is a part of it that is like that, but there are cities in the Amazon. There are a lot of people who live in the Amazon, not just native people. So, but everybody has dogs. Native people have dogs. Non-native people have dogs. Like, everybody has dogs. Yeah, the dogs kind of suck in the Amazon, honestly. And yeah, and it also sucks when there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of problems. Okay, I don't want to get into more stuff, but so when I say like people ruin it, that's what I mean. Like, I could talk all day about the ways that humans ruin nature, but you guys already know. But it doesn't mean that I didn't have good experiences. Okay, now that I've said that, let's get into the story. So you got to understand, at this time of my life, I was like, when this happened, I was probably 22, 23, maybe 23 at this point. In my early 20s, I was kind of fearless, very naive, just kind of didn't really have so much fear. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'll walk around in the nighttime. Yeah, I'll go sleep in the tent way over there, away from everybody. And then, like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I didn't really feel so afraid. I was kind of fearless, kind of stupid, just kind of like trusting. Yeah, just a second. I'm going to get some water. Okay. So yeah, when you're in your early 20s, you think you're like invincible, and you don't really have your guard up so much. And you don't, because you haven't really experienced enough stuff to be like, and your frontal lobe is not fully, your what is it called? Your frontal cortex? I don't know. A part of your brain is not fully developed until you're like 25. And you just haven't experienced maybe such, you haven't had experiences that like showed you like up until this point, I really hadn't experienced anything that bad. Like, I had never really been attacked. I'd never been robbed. I never really experienced anything serious. And so one day, I was in the city, and I was planning on going to sleep on the farm that night, to stay on the farm. And my ex he was doing his own thing, and he was gonna be there, but we were gonna go separately and whatever. Yeah, I don't know if we were in a relationship or not at that point, but he was doing his own thing. He was gonna be there, but we were going on separate schedules. We had separate schedules. And so the hours were going by in the day, and I was like, yeah, I'll go out there tonight. But I just got busy doing stuff. And before I knew it, it was already pretty late. It was already like the nighttime. So I was like, okay, well, because I think I was shopping. I was buying food and stuff. I was at the grocery store. I don't know. I was buying a bunch of food, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go back to the farm in the nighttime because it got dark. It got late. So it's okay. There's a nighttime bus. There's the last bus. I'm going to take that one. So by the time I got out there, it was like maybe like 8 p.m. Not super late, but it was dark out. It was dark outside. And this was Sunday night. For context, Sunday is the day that people tend to drink the most alcohol in Latin America, specifically there in Ecuador and in those towns. Yeah, Sundays were always the worst day for me to walk around in town because I would get the most catcalling. The machistas are drunk and they're out and they're saying stuff. So, but I am I am the type of person, like, I am ready for that. I walk around ready. I am not passive. I will respond to you. I will tell you to shut up. I will say I'm not a dog. Shut up, I'm not a dog. I will confront you. I will hold you accountable. I am not passive. I am not one of those. I don't believe in that. I think we need to hold people accountable. We need to confront them. We need to say, that's not okay. Hey, stop it. Cut it out. Stop. Hey. Yeah. So that's me normally in public. But yeah, I noticed that Sundays are a bit intense because people drink a lot of alcohol. So for context, it was Sunday night. And in hindsight, I should have known to not go out, to not go home in the nighttime, to not be walking around. Like in the city when there's a lot of people, it's okay. But like in certain areas where there's a lot of people and families and stuff. But to be walking, because the bus dropped me off at the end of a road that led to my farm. So I had to walk like 10 minutes down this road, this dirt road in the countryside, in the dark, no people around. Well, my neighbors, they have their farms, but like, you know, it's just a road. And all I had was my phone for the flashlight. And I had my backpack, I had bags of food. In hindsight, looking back, like, yeah, I should have known not to go out in the nighttime. And I learned my lesson that day. Trust me. I don't walk around. I don't play anymore. Like, I'm extra cautious now. I don't walk around in the nighttime in places unless there's a lot of people and stuff going on. Yeah, I'm very cautious about this now. But at the time, I didn't think much about it. And it wasn't the first time I had walked like in the dark and stuff. So by myself. So the bus drops me off at the end of the road and I'm walking down the road. And then all of a sudden I hear something. I hear like someone walking behind me. And so I turn around with the light from the cell phone, and I see there's a short guy, looks like he was kind of covering his face with a cloth, like a piece of clothing. He was trying to cover his face a little bit or something. He had it on his head. But he was kind of walking kind of sloppy, like kind of stumbling, like he was very drunk. And he looked like a native guy, like one of my Quechua neighbors. That's how we say it in Ecuador, the Quechua people. In Gualakisa, they have more Shuar in the south, but in Koka, they have more Quechua. So the Quechua, he looked like he was from one of those families, one of my Quechua neighbors. And he was just walking, and I was like, what's going on? So I was like, okay, well, let me try to see because I didn't want to just assume what's going on. So I was like, buenas noches. Like, I was trying to greet him to see if he would respond. He didn't respond. He just kept walking. He was a little bit farther back. It wasn't like right behind me. He had some distance back. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep walking. And because I didn't know if he had a weapon or not, right? Now I know he didn't have a weapon, thankfully. In hindsight, like, I should have dropped my bags and I should have tried to scare him away immediately. But I didn't know. I didn't know what he was going to do. So I was like, this was the first time I'd ever experienced something like that. Now I think I'd be a little bit more proactive and I would probably like try to scare them away. But also, like I said, I didn't know if he had a weapon. So I was just kind of walking, and every few steps I would turn the light to put it on him, just to like see how far away he is from me, see if he's getting closer. And he was getting closer and closer. And so I crossed to the other side of the road. It's just a dirt road, small road, but I just moved over to the other side so I could kind of look at him like at an angle so he wasn't directly behind me, because I didn't want him to come up behind me. So I'm walking, and then he comes up, so he's like parallel with me, and then he turns and he runs at me. He charges me in a drunk, sloppy way, but he comes at me. No weapon, I couldn't see, but just came at me, and he was making a sound. I don't know if he was trying to scare me, but he was like, ah, running at me. And it's just my instant reaction, like my first impulse, I barely had time to think. And like, I remember I had my backpack, I had bags. If I didn't have anything, I probably would have punched him. And I've been wanting my whole life a reason to punch somebody. And it would have been so satisfying. And I probably would have beaten him up. But I had bags and I had my backpack on. I can't really, and I didn't want to just drop it all because I didn't want him to take my stuff and run. I didn't want him to rob me. I didn't know what he was doing. So my immediate reaction, he came at me. So I just put my hands up and pushed him back. Thankfully, he didn't really hurt me. He only like bruised my leg a little bit. But yeah, remember, he's a shorter guy. He's shorter than me. He's drunk. He's a small guy. He didn't have a weapon. So I push him back, and my initial reaction, the first thing that came out of my mouth was that I screamed at him, "What the?" I can't swear in these videos, but you know the word. What the? And yeah, that was, the gringa came out of me. And then I immediately switched to Spanish. I'm thinking, what can I say? Like, the first thing that pops into my head that will scare him. Like, what? Immediately, I'm trying to scare him. What do I say? And I said, "Te voy a matar." I said, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." I didn't have a weapon. If I did, I probably would have killed him. If I had my machete, I probably would have murdered a man that night. I don't know. But I was just trying to scare him. So I screamed that at him. And thankfully, he ran away. He ran away. But that traumatized me like you don't understand. Like, I go home. I'm like, I can barely talk. I'm just like crying. And yeah, my ex was like, he was just like surprised. He was just in shock. But yeah. Anyways, for the next like couple months, I had a hard time walking by myself, even during the daytime. I would be walking and I'd be constantly like looking over my shoulder. Like, I felt like somebody was following me for like 3 months. I just couldn't shake that feeling of like, oh, it was like a horror movie. It could have been a lot worse, but it was like a horror movie, the way it was like the nighttime and he was like drunk and he was like following me and he had no light and he was just, yeah, it was crazy. That really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I like walking alone, walking in the dark. It made me more nervous to go out there, to be out there. Because sometimes my ex would be gone and I'd be out there by myself. And not that my ex was a super like great protector anyway, but yeah, he was a gringo. I have not dated a gringo since. I don't plan on it. I always say that was my last gringo. Not because of him, but because like nothing against gringos. It's just they're just not my type. But yeah, that was my last gringo boyfriend I'll ever have in my life. Yeah, so the worst part of it was that I felt like that was probably one of my neighbors. That guy was probably one of my neighbors, and I didn't really get to see what he looks like. I wouldn't be able to recognize him. He was like covering his face. It all happened so fast. I don't know who it is. I couldn't point out who it is, but that was probably one of my neighbors. And now I want to live here thinking that one of my neighbors attacked me like that, and I don't even know who it is. And, and I don't know. I had heard stories about other neighbors getting involved in violent things and going to jail. And I knew that there was a serious alcohol problem. Every time I'd go to visit some of my neighbors, they would just have piles and piles of beer cases. And on top of that, they drank chicha, which they would make alcoholic. Chicha doesn't have to be alcoholic, but you can make it alcoholic, and they would drink it alcoholic. Yeah, there's a big alcohol problem and a violence problem. And yeah, I used to go to some of my I used to go visit this Quechua family's house because the women, and some of the people there were very nice to me, very sweet. But yeah, every time I'd go, just so much evidence of alcohol around. Almost always there was a movie playing. Somebody was watching a movie, and somewhere I would hear a movie, and it was almost always like a violent movie or a horror movie. Yeah, you'd go on the buses in Ecuador and they'd be playing violent, super violent movies on the buses all the time. Back then, they might have changed it now. I think they passed a law about that, but yeah, just there's a violence problem. And yeah, but United States, there's a huge violence problem too. I mean, you should not walk in the dark in the United States either. Like, United States has we have the most documented serial killers. There's a lot of psychopaths in the United States. Yeah, even in my state, there's been shooters, there's been killers, there's been murders. There's, from white people, white men a lot of times are the psychopaths. So once again, this is not about, I don't want to make or any group of people look bad or target a specific group of people. I'm just sharing my experience about what happened to me there. And it could have happened to me in many countries, in many places. But it happened to me there. And that's what happened. So just sharing that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just to wrap up, I eventually realized I was going crazy out there because I was so lonely, and I just felt like I couldn't really connect that well with a lot of the people around. And so I ended up leaving, and I went down to the south, and I went to go live in places where there was more like-minded people. And the south of Ecuador. I went to a couple different towns where there's more gringos, there's more vegans, there's more people who were trying to be a little bit more mindful and more, trying to live with less violence and more consciousness. And anyways, I went to places where I could have a bit more of a social life. And then I ended up meeting my next boyfriend, who was from Argentina, but he was a traveler. He spent many years in Ecuador. And he helped me a lot with my Spanish because he didn't know English. So that's where I get my Argentinian influence from in my Spanish. So yeah. And at some point when I was with him, I made the decision to let go of my farm. I was holding on to it for a while. I didn't want to let it go. I would pay my neighbor to take care of it sometimes because I didn't want my farm. Because if you abandon the farm, the jungle grows and all your fruit trees die. So all that work was for nothing, basically. And at some point, I just had to accept it. I just had to let it go because I realized I didn't want to go back there. I realized I didn't want to go back to Koka. I didn't want to go back to the farm. I didn't want to live my life there. So I made the decision to abandon the farm and my ex as well. And so, yeah, now it's just a jungle again. It's just a jungle again. Yeah, and I'm not really concerned about it. It was such cheap land. We haven't sold it because we're thinking maybe in the future it will be worth more. And it was so cheap, we're just not really concerned about it. We also have some neighbors that have a way of contacting us. So if there were people living on it or something, they would contact us. So we know that nobody's there, but yeah, it's just it's an overgrown jungle now. All the fruit trees died and the house, the little cabins are being swallowed by the jungle. But that's okay. Nature wins in the end. That's okay. It's okay. And now I'm a digital nomad. I'm traveling around. I left Ecuador in 2023 2023? No. What are we in now, right now? 2025? Yeah, 2020, a couple of years ago. I left Ecuador 2 years ago. I was in Ecuador for a total of 5 years and a half. 5.5 years. 5.5 years. And I haven't been back since. A part of me would like to go back, but not to Koka, but to like other parts. Yeah, just for old time's sake. But at the moment, I have other countries on my list that I wanna check out first. So yeah. So that's my story of living in the Amazon. It was a total of 4 years in the Amazon of Ecuador, and yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. You can ask me questions in the comments. I'll try to respond to some of them. And yes, please, please just ask questions, and if you're not sure about something, please just ask me a question instead of like automatically going to criticism, because I mean everything in the best way possible. And yeah, I would be happy to answer questions and stuff. So try not to assume anything. Yeah. Okay, that's it. What did you think about this first podcast episode? It was very long. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be this long. I thought it would be like an hour, but it looks like it's going to be longer. But yeah, I know that I say a lot. Okay. It's just the way that I talk. I'm sorry. I'll try to work on it, but it's just real talking. And I did warn you at the beginning that this is how we really talk, and I'm not going to be cutting it. So I'm just going to be talking normally, and whatever you hear, that's just how I would talk to my friends, to whoever. So sorry, but that's just real English. So yeah. All right then. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be posting a new podcast episode with a new topic soon, I hope. And yeah, right now I'm in Medellin, but in 2 days I'm going to Lima. I'm going to Peru for the first time. I'll be in Lima for a month, and then we'll see what I do after that. So yeah, my first time in Peru. I think that some things are going to remind me of Ecuador, but some things are going to be totally different. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. If you have watched to the end, you are one of my favorites. You are one of the best ones out there, and I really appreciate you. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.